Hi, and welcome to a special interview of on either side of a Draconia. We have been dealing with some pretty extensive technical difficulties this morning, and so we're really hoping that our interviewee can join us. If we're unable to make it work, we promise to delete this.
And see you next week when we do some more technical research.
Right. So, anyways, we just want to thank you all for sticking with us. So far, there's not actually anyone watching.
There we go, one person.
But
should we see who that is? Doesn't seem to tell us who that is. But it does say it can allow our viewers to request to join as a guest in the broadcast.
Yeah, so that's good.
Don't you love technology when everything just works as it's absolutely not supposed to? I think it's one of the special things in our world today.
It's one of the most special, Michael, and I really appreciate you bringing that up.
All this wonderful technology that very few of us can use regularly. Oh, look at that. What was that? Was that somebody? Somebody just liked our page. But it still doesn't seem to give us the ability to add them.
Well, it does, just...
This is not the one that we're trying to add. But thank you for being here, Liz Kane.
So if anyone's wondering how not to do a stream, it's basically this. This is how... Oh, hi, Liz Kane. Hiya.
Good times, huh? Yep.
So we can tell that our interviewee can see us. We can't see him, so we're totally unable to actually add him to the broadcast. Where's the Danny Colello when you need him?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well, should we continue to awkwardly fumble our way through this one, or
I'm not
try a different approach here?
I'm not having a bad time.
No? Okay, that's good.
I'm going to be totally honest with you there.
I've certainly have had worse experiences in my life.
Yeah, I'd say I had about a decade of worse experiences that were called my brutal and crippling addiction to drugs.
Yeah.
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 Severe mental health stuff.
Good thing all that mental health stuff really resolved for you.
Some of it has.
Well, if nothing else, we make this video look good.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna call in our interviewee in the hopes that does work.
Should we just FaceTime him in and then just hold up his?
I don't want to get any more awkward than we've already gotten. Mr. Ward.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join what has started off as maybe the most awkward live video, but we're excited to take it in a different direction now.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm actually currently trying to get my sound off so you don't hear me in the background watching you guys.
Right on. Thank you. So Ryan, we've spent a little bit of time today chatting about our services and what we do, so we really don't need to get back into that. But what we'd love to do is get an idea of who you are and what your role is in the addiction treatment space, because it's such a unique perspective and role that you've taken on that few others would.
Sure. Well, I certainly appreciate, first, thanks for what you guys are doing. You have a beautiful new building, and the new business model is without a doubt going to help a lot of people. And it's, from my perspective, what I did was basically I had never had any issues. I lived a very normal life. I had the great childhood. I mean, the best childhood somebody could have. I mean, really just perfect. Went to school, went to college, was a weekend warrior, partied my butt off in school, lived in the fraternity house. I've never blacked out on alcohol. I never had any issues. And when I graduated from college, I went straight to work, and I would, party on the weekends. So that was it. I was a kind of a meathead, so I did a lot of weightlifting and had a back surgery when I was 27. And it was the doctor, instead of saying, hey, I messed up, just said, here, keep taking these. And this is before the, where you would see it on the news all the time. So I just listened to the doctor, and I couldn't understand why I kept getting sick. And I was like, I'm in so much pain still, and I keep getting sick. Yeah. And it was actually an opioid withdrawal, but I didn't realize, or physical dependence at that point. And for years, for 2 years actually, he was just giving me pain meds. And then the actual metal that he had put in there actually broke, severing my spinal cord. And I ended up having just a slew of surgeries. So long story short, I mean, I was the definition of chronic pain. And I was, it didn't take much to get pain meds. Obviously, I could walk in any doctor and they'd give me, 160 Dilaudid or whatever I wanted, just show them the scars. And I ended up, see if I can summarize this the best I can, because I have such a wide array of experience through life and work. But I ended up having a normal job in D.C. after college, and then, like I said, I hurt my back. After I hurt my back, the pain meds eventually went from the physical dependency to the actual addiction. And looking back on it now is really where I understand it. But I went out, my mom, she went online, and this was back when, the internet was really still kind of new, and was calling everywhere in the world she could find to get me help. And I went to some of the, most well-known places you would have thought of back then. There were only a couple. And I just couldn't relate. I mean, I would walk in, and these people were like, the first time I had a drink, I felt normal. And at that point, I was like, I don't understand. And when they asked me, they're like, what's your goal for being here? I was like, so I can go out and drink with my friends again. And they all just died laughing, but I was dead serious. I was like, I didn't drink anymore. I was like, because I didn't mix. I was like, no, I want to be personable again. Like, I'm outgoing. And it just, nothing made sense to me. We're like, no, it's the highway. And it just didn't work for me because it wasn't right for me, but I'm an econ guy. I didn't know what was right for me either. I just knew I was in a lot of pain. So whatever they said, I was going to keep taking pain meds because I'd rather die when I was off them. It hurt so bad. Long story short, I ended up finding a surgeon in University of Pennsylvania found that this whole time I'd had like a piece of metal that was still stuck in my back. He was like, my God, how haven't you killed yourself? This must hurt like crazy. I was like, yeah, I've tried. And a lot of surgeries later, they fixed things. But I myself ended up going through the process of being defrauded by some shady rehabs, being what they call now patient brokerage, where somebody calls themselves an interventionist or marketer or whatever you want to call it, steps in the middle and gets paid to basically steal from you and act as a life coach, if you will. So I had a lot of everything bad in the industry that's happening. I had that happen to me as a victim. And then so when I was able to get better, I did AA for a year, and I agreed with my family and the counselors and everything. I was like, I'll do it for a full year, everything you say, and follow it to the nine. And I did. I followed it to the nine, everything. At the end of that year, I was like, yeah, I'm sober. I can tell the difference. I'm healthier, all that. And that part worked. But I still want to die. Life's not worth living. I'm in so much pain. Even going to AA meetings were fun at that point because I'd made a lot of friends. That was all my friends. But it hurt so bad because they're not comfortable chairs. And I couldn't do it. And they were like, why don't you try, suboxone? And I had several doctors mention it, but they were at the rehabs I was at, but they would say, but policy, doesn't allow me to keep you on it. But man, you'd be a great candidate. Come see me, on the side when you get out of here. I'm like, well, I don't even live in this state. And why is a doctor saying this and he's being trumped by policy of a, administrator? It didn't make sense. So like I said, I found a doctor, and I couldn't tell you the exact time later, whether it was 6 months or 8 months, but at some point I started out on the same dose I'm on now, and it helped enough with the pain that I was able to function, and it helped as far as cravings go. They disappeared. I mean, I've been on it now for 8 or 9 years, and I commonly forget to take it. Like I'll start sweating and be like, all right, is it my air conditioning? Do I live in Florida, or did I forget to take my subs today? Sorry, it's a little awkward being on the phone. I know you guys are live and want to keep it short, but I ended up having some more, when I came to Florida, some more opportunities to work in the industry and help people. So that's what I wanted to do. And so I was like, all right, so now I can be on the other side and really help people. And we started a place called Dream Recovery International. And it was really successful right off the bat, and we did a lot of things. And unfortunately, our investors, we grew really fast. We needed some more investors, and we had this one big, very wealthy majority investor come in, and he was super shady. Anyway, long story short, I ended up doing some due diligence and wondering why I was COO and basically running everything except billing, and I couldn't see anything to do with money, which didn't make any sense because I'm the only one that had experience with P&L or any type of economics. So I went looking and found what I was looking for, and that was almost just short of $200 million in fraud. And so I drove directly to the police station and turned them in. And now they're serving 15 years, and I found out that that's basically the way business practices here. From the day we opened the rehab, we bribed the DCF worker to get our license. I mean, the lad that got our business gave us kickbacks. I mean, it was just like I just witnessed crime after crime. Half the guys that are in jail now for patient brokering, they were in and out of our place all the time, and I had no idea that that's what it was at the time, but. Now that I'm able to look at it, it's amazing. And after blowing the whistle, I ended up having to have another round of back surgeries and a round of neck surgeries. So I started writing on LinkedIn and just about my experiences and what had happened and what to watch out for and pitfalls, if you will. And then a lot of other people had started coming forward saying, hey, my rehab does the same thing. And so, really being more open about the criminal element that's involved here in both the sober homes and the inpatient part. So that's what drove me, and purely organically, just writing articles on LinkedIn, I gathered a great following of leaders throughout the addiction industry. And, a lot of them that will disagree with me, but do so in an intellectual manner. The other day, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've also started making video posts because I got kind of tired of there's very few trolls on LinkedIn, which I like. It's all you can't get away with saying something. You can see who you are and where you work. So every once in a while, I'd hear somebody make a comment, heroin is, or suboxone is heroin replacement. So they'd leave those one-liners, but that was it. I'd comment back right away. Hey, let's talk about this. Why do you think that? And it disappeared or the mist. But That's why I've started making the videos these last couple of days for a couple of reasons. It shows the example of what I've been writing, and it's had a much more poignant effect. And I've challenged any doctor that's still saying that, suboxone equals heroin. I've never done heroin, but I certainly don't know anyone that's done heroin for 9 years every day and can function like I do. So anyway, that's I mean, that's really
long. Yeah. That's fascinating stuff. I mean, we've certainly, Michael and I both, I feel like I can speak to this a bit, spent years in a town called Prescott, Arizona, and a lot of similar things happened there. And I think it takes either a really secure or a really motivated individual, I think, to have the cojones to really address that, and not just I think for me it was I kind of just left that and went to start programs that were philosophically and operationally counter to that sort of thing. But I mean, seeing your analyses or discovering that your analyses were being wildly misbilled, learning about double billing of your analyses. I mean, there were just so many so many ways in which, and I think that the two saddest pieces that that I always saw, and I wonder if you can speak to this at all, is there wasn't, you're right, like they were stealing from you in the sense that they weren't, by focusing all of the organizational effort on the fraud, it takes away from any semblance of evidence-based practice while also defrauding the patient by way of, you know, not only manipulating the bills but also manipulating the services, right? So it's not fully integrated, comprehensive treatment from experts in the field, because those cost too much and they aren't particularly helpful with fraud. It's generally people like, you know, they make a BHT out of a person who has 6 months sober, and they pay them a little bit extra, and they say, you know, essentially don't talk about this, right? Like
6 months is counselor material here.
Exactly right, exactly right. So
I'm not even kidding you. That's a sad part.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think regulation is so important, and it's not because it's not for me at all. I don't worry about the insurance companies. That's never what kept me up at night, right? Like whether or not United Healthcare felt good about itself or felt like it was being defrauded. It was about the fact that the patients that had United or Cigna or any of these carriers, they were getting wildly subpar treatment, and they weren't being brought into a community of recovery. They were being brought into a community run by and thus sort of catered to fraud. And I don't think, I mean, you could literally tell the difference in treatment centers, right? Like you went to Prescott House, which is totally ethical, and lo and behold, you had pretty good community around you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think of the like the responsibility that we have to work in this field, the responsibility that we have to treat this already very victimized and vulnerable population, and to like not put that first and foremost in our minds of people who are treating or advocating for their care. It is so irresponsible, and it is such a dark, evil thing to do.
That's a great point, and I think you're right. The responsibility does lie with us, because I mean, I think you could tell, you know, to stay kind of to stay apolitical and stay political at the same time I've not heard a politician mention the opioid crisis in a very long time, and that's all that's in the news right now. And so that's terrifying to me. I mean, it's like, literally legalizing marijuana is more important than the opiate issue right now. And when I talk about the opiate issue, I'm always sure, because I'm somebody that's in the chronic pain community too. There's a lot of people, especially during COVID, of chronic pain sufferers who legitimately needed and used pain meds for years and years and years, who have been taken off because their doctors either didn't want scrutiny or the pharmacists have been given the ability to cut them off. So I'm always very careful to, you know, they're not opiates aren't cigarettes, you know. And you're right about the trust factor, and it's our responsibility to kind of police it, because, you know, a lot of people do just leave the situation, you know, and just exit, but they just don't say anything. Whereas I'm not that kind of person, and I'm somebody that is not going to do that ever. But I was also realized that I was in the rare position of having the knowledge, having the ability to speak out on it, and it had been done to me, so I knew it was unique. I just knew that there are not a lot of me out there. It's kind of the accidental expert kind of thing. And I knew that I'd lost so many years of my life to that I just couldn't see other people do it. And you know, like I demonstrated just yesterday on that phone call that I posted on my LinkedIn. I called one of those, you know, does your loved one need help with drugs or alcohol? We've all seen that commercial at night. There's just 800 number call centers that literally sell you to the highest bidder. I mean, literally turn you to a product. And I mean, if anybody's watched that video, it couldn't be a more perfect example of how far we have not come.
Right.
I mean, it's just pathetic to all degrees. And, you know, finding the right help is so important. And I love what you guys said, because, you know, I watched one of your older videos and you were talking about your treatment. your admissions policy, and kind of, your biopsych, how you enter people, and that's really important. It's not just giving them medication. And there's a lot more to that than just taking a pill. Where, yes, I'm 9 years into it. I still go once a month. No, not during COVID. I did, but yeah, even after almost 9 years, I still go once a month. I still get drug tested to make sure, I still do the rules. It's a full thing, and it's not right for everybody, but it's perfect for. There is a good part of the population that very much benefits from it, and you keep people alive.
Right. Well, yeah. So that last sentence, I think, is so much of where we're so well aligned with. We really wanted to have you on here is because we have seen time and time again close friends, very close friends, die from the disease of addiction, and they didn't have to. Right. Like the issue was that they kept being told, they were indoctrinated into this idea, and this is coming from a proud member of Alcoholics Anonymous. They were indoctrinated into a program that was so black and white that it didn't actually have the space for them to make the mistakes or on one side, right, to make mistakes, on the other side, to get an alternative form of assistance. And I think every 12-step recovery community is different, and Denver's different, way different than it was when my experience in Prescott. But I think at the same time, we have to, as professionals in the field, we cannot just take our own personal experience of what specifically worked for us and apply it to everything else, particularly when we look at the statistics, right? Like the statistics tell us that we've objectively failed. But if we start looking at the statistics of the same exact clinical interventions, but with MAT versus pure abstinence, there is a good, like you said, there's a strong cross-section of the opiate-addicted population and alcohol and others we're starting to find that will find success where they couldn't have otherwise, and we can start to reduce the number of opioid deaths in a really tangible and effective way, and not just for this sort of theoretical addict, but for close friends and mentors and people that have been in our lives for years because we're members of the addicted, of the recovering community. So it's not just this idea to us, right? It's a very tangible loss. It's a very tangible thing. And I think these statistics tell us that we can't just keep going in the same direction and assume that every single person deserves that one shot at that one approach. We have to, if there's going to be a space full of individualization language, we have to start actually individualizing care so that people who haven't succeeded in a straightforward black and white 12-step context get a different opportunity. They aren't recycled through the exact same process over and over again. Because, like for me, for example, I tried Outpatient, I tried Wilderness. Those didn't work worth a damn for me personally. What worked for me was essentially 18 months of being told how bad of a person I was while being introduced to the 12 steps. And working the 12 steps helped me get through the stuff that had happened in the rehab that I was in for 18 months. Which was, so the idea that this same exact approach that we need to continue hitting people's heads against the wall until they either get it or die is...
And they teach us the definition of insanity while they're literally doing it.
Exactly. I think so, right? And you look at, you compare it to other diseases. Look at diabetes, right? You're not like, if somebody with type 2 diabetes relapses on a huge amount of McDonald's, you're not like, well, you either stop eating every single type of food you like or go die, Right? Nobody
It's
tells
fun
them that.
for you.
Right. You know, when you're treating, if you're talking about addiction as a progressive disease, when you're treating cancer, you know, if there's a resurgence of the cancer, probably, I assume, you're going to try to look for different solutions, right? You're not just going to continue to fight it the same exact way. So I think, it's
evolution.
right, and so I think the idea for us, and it sounds like you really agree, is that it's not about changing the prescription from pure 12-step to pure MAT. It's about changing this idea of prescriptive treatment to individualized treatment based off of data, based off of outcomes, based off of what we know to be true because of research, not what we know to be true because of our personal, very specific individual experience.
Exactly. And I'm a black or white guy, man. That's me. I'm science. So I'm just like, you know, and so for me, you said it perfectly right there. It's about, you know, it's about keeping people alive, number one. And it's funny you say you said you're a proud member of AA, and it's so funny because the majority of my friends are AA people, and I did, like I said, I did AA full on. I mean, I did much more than 90 and 90. I made 90 and 90 look like small stuff. I mean, I really did full on AA, and enjoyed it. Made some great friends and had, you know, a good community down here. But it just wasn't right for me. So the only part of the big book I disagree with is terminally unique. I'm like, yeah, actually we are. And I used to speak all the time at AA meetings until I finally was like, I'm tired of lying that I have to, you know, keep suboxone from everybody. So I just stopped going to AA meetings because, you know, the drugs weren't okay. You know, so, but yeah, you made the point perfectly. You know, it's whatever. We're all unique. Everybody reacts differently to things. I remember and we all have to evolve. I mean, I can tell you personally, a couple years ago, one of the drugs that I have used towards the end was methadone. And that was almost death of me. At the end, I was taking almost 500 milligrams of methadone, and that is absolutely absurd, ridiculous, and also the worst detox you could possibly think of. And everybody's like, "Oh, the detox will teach them, you know, let them suffer." It doesn't teach us anything. I've cold turkey probably 70 times in my life. It just causes harm to my body. And so people who think that, they just don't know, and they don't understand. So you made some great points, and I really, really love what you guys are doing, because it does. It keeps people alive, and you guys are mainly going to see those people that have tried, you know, every other method, and it's like, you know, not working, and it's, you know, you're going to be there to keep them alive and give them the counseling they need until they can get off suboxone and into that safe space, and you can figure out what's going on with them mentally, because, you know, drugs are the symptom, or alcohol, whatever, and you can work on that part while you know they're safe.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's great.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Awesome.
So, and I wish I could understand. The guy who invented suboxone just died actually recently, and I wish I could understand how that drug worked. I mean, it is so complex. It's amazing how, because, you know, I've had, I think, 4 surgeries and a kidney stone since being on it, and I used, other than being in the hospital for one of the major back surgeries, I used suboxone as my pain med.
Yeah.
So I just upped my dose, because I don't, you know, your body can only process 32 milligrams a day anyway. And so since I take much less than that, I was able to up to 32 for a few days. And my doctors totally trusted me, and they were like, yeah, it went fine. Now, I will say, I did that with the kidney stone. Don't do that. Go to the hospital. Get the real stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
I tried to be a little too brave on that one.
Yeah, well, I just feel like it's a different type of pain too. Like that's that like sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, that's next level stuff.
Yeah.
If you have it. I have a whole new respect for women too, because apparently it's compared to childbirth.
Yeah, and apparently it takes a little longer to. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sorry. Total change of subject.
No worries. Thank you. Well, listen, I know you said, I mean, we started you way late, and I know you've got your day job, and we have to certainly get to our patients today. So, do you want to close this out?
I just appreciate you taking some time for us, Ryan. It's great to talk to you. It's great to see and meet other people who are just so passionate about this work and this community. Because I think you're right. Like, if it's not us who are intimately involved in this community, advocating for our community's needs, you know, nobody else will.
Right.
You're right. You're absolutely right, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And you're really you really are gonna make a difference. And I think people are gonna see that, and it's gonna change the stigma. And that's another big part that, like you said, we don't have so much time here, but there's so many things we can talk about. But I mean, there's so much stigma even within the community about this. It's like, all right, come on, we're all just trying to get people to functioning humans again, right? So whatever that takes, let's do it. And let's all agree that we could have intellectual disagreements about how we get them there, but let's just get them there. So that's it. And let's do it in an ethical way. And until we see, we're losing right now the equivalent of a 9/11 a week in people in overdose deaths. And yet we're not even talking about it. So it's like, okay, until that shows you how many people are making a fortune. So until that number is unbalanced, meaning there's more people dying than more people getting rich, it's going to keep happening because I'm still seeing a lot of people getting rich off of this. So that's the main problem here is money and greed. And there's no there's a lot of public corruption involved in this too. So you're right. It is up to us. I really thank you guys for doing what you're doing. You're going to help. You're going to save lives. And you should feel proud of yourself. It's a beautiful place, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate that so much. And we appreciate all the work that you're doing and the advocacy, because I think it similarly has a huge effect on the destigmatization, particularly, I think in your case, within the space, right? Like within the national addiction treatment conversation, we need to start looking at things differently. And when those trolls start to troll, that we do address it, and we don't just attack them, but we invite them to share data, and if they can't, then we can share the data. I think it's huge stuff. So thank you so much for spending your time with us this morning and for working through the technical difficulties, to say the least.
Hey, it's all good. It's a new world. We're all learning it. So we'll do it again sometime. I'd be happy to come in if you ever have a group of patients to talk. So
awesome.
Just shoot me a text and we'll try it again sometime, and we'll get it right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care.
And thank you to our viewers for joining us today. We'll see you in a couple weeks for our next episode.